Every time you meet with the prospect, there's a silent negotiation happening. And it's not what most salespeople think. It's not about posturing or fake confidence. It's about frame control. And the frame determines who has the power, who has the leverage, and ultimately who's going to lead this conversation. And you're either creating the frame or you're stepping into the prospects. There is no neutral ground. And if you're a realtor watching this, chances are you're the type of person who shows up and puts in the work every single day. How do I know? Because you wouldn't be here otherwise. But you're also probably tired of working your rear end off and not earning $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month. Maybe you're juggling too many buyers who simply don't respect you. And deep down, you know you're capable of so much more. If that's you, the agent who refuses to settle, then I'd love to have a real conversation with you about being your coach. Not a sales pitch, but just a simple conversation between two professionals on how to get you to where you know you should already be. So if you're open to that, I'll put a link in the description. So how do you create a frame that absorbs someone else's? It's not about what you say. You see, most people obsess over the script. And Brandon, give me the magic words. The person whose frame wins is the person who has the strongest sense of identity and is attached to the outcome the least. And so every strong frame has a structure. And that structure can be developed over time. And once you do, you will own every room you walk into. How? Number one is expectation. This is what prospects expect to happen. This expectation comes from their past experience with salespeople, right or wrong, good or bad. And most prospects expect you to give them a high-pressure sales pitch and attempt to convince them to do business with them. This is expectation. Number two is beliefs. This is what most prospects believe is true about you and the situation. And if you do a simple Google search, you will quickly find the beliefs that the consumers have about real estate agents. And that is that they believe most agents are exactly the same and that realtors are overpaid commission vultures. And number three, which is the prospect's perception. This is the story the prospect is telling themselves about you. And it's not about what's true. It's about what they feel is true. They're feeling about the real estate market. They're feeling about how much their home is worth. And they're feeling as to whether or not you're the right agent to represent them. So let's talk about how to rebuild your inner frame so that you can show up as the authority and the leader that your clients need you to be. When two frames collide, the person with more emotional certainty wins. And there are four main types of frames that are constantly at battle. The power frame, I'm in control here. The time frame, my time is worth more than yours. The value frame, convince me you're worth it. And the emotional frame, he who needs nothing controls everything. You see, and the secret is not to fight frames directly. You redirect them. So if you start to get defensive or you start over talking or over explaining, you signal to the prospect that your frame is weak. And you see, the reality is you cannot control the external frame in a room unless you've mastered your own internal frame first. So adopt the mindset of, I don't need this listing. I want this listing. I'd like to have the listing, but I don't need it. Enter every listing appointment with status, not arrogance, but certainty. Stay calm, centered, and be selective. The second thing you can do to build a stronger inner frame is to identify the prospect's frame. Listen for how they're defining this interaction. Are they testing you? Are they asking you things like, well, what makes you different than other agents? How motivated are they to actually move? Are they saying things, well, we're just looking at options right now? Are they trying to lead the frame? Are they saying things like, this is how this is going to go? Knowing their frame and their position will help you to determine how to neutralize each one. Once your frame wins, you set the storyline that everyone plays in. This is done by using anchoring questions that define the dynamic, saying things like, here's how the process is going to work. Let's make sure we both think it makes sense to move forward. Communicating like this positions you as the guide, not the guest. So here's how top agents control the frame at a listing appointment. And remember, it's not something you can fake. It's about whose self-image is truly stronger. This is why I always encourage agents to fix yourself first. Win the inner game. You see, we don't have business problems. We have personal problems that show up in our business. So number one is the pattern interrupt. Remember, the seller has an expectation of how they think this is going to go. So one of the greatest things that you can do at the beginning of a listing appointment to control the frame is by simply using this key phrase. Mr. Seller, look, before we jump into anything today, I have to be upfront. I understand and I'm fully aware that I'm not the right agent for everyone. And so if you decide that that is also the case for you, it's totally fine. This neutralizes the interview frame and replaces it with the authority frame. Number two is controlling the value frame. Prevent the seller from defining value as what agent's going to show me the sexiest marketing, telling me my house is worth more than it is, and cutting their commission as low as possible. And shift this story that they hold inside of their mind so it no longer serves them. Here's a key phrase you can use. Mrs. Seller, here's the truth. Most agents, they tell them everything they think they want to hear in order to win you over. And if it's okay with you, I'm not interested in winning your listing. I am only interested in helping you to actually get the property sold. So again, if you're comfortable with it, I would much rather be completely forthcoming and be brutally honest with what it's going to take to get your property sold. Is that okay? This further solidifies the frame that you are indeed the authority, and it continues to demonstrate that they need you more than you need them. This is very, very important. All right, so let me give you two extremely powerful ways to build influence over another person. Number one is to pause before you speak. Pausing signals certainty. When you talk quickly, it reveals neediness, desperation. People who rush to fill the silence signal to the prospect, I need and I want your approval. And by contrast, those that use strategic pausing signal confidence. See, when you pause, it's creating this processing gap in the prospect's mind. That's when the prospect sits back and says, they're thinking about this carefully. This triggers what psychologists call the effort heuristic. This is the idea that people assign more value to something that appears to require more thought and effort. The pause subconsciously tells the prospect, this person chooses their words wisely. And as a result, the perception that you're giving off is that your words carry weight and thus more value. When you pause and slow down, you stand out. Let your competitors be the fast-talking, slick salesperson. The contrast in your communication captures attention and signals leadership. And the reality is, all of your competition feels awkward in silence, and so they break it. And whoever feels least compelled to fill the silence controls the frame. And the second thing to build influence over someone is to have unshakable presence. Presence is the sense of calm confidence that projects, I am completely here and nothing can shake me. This triggers two responses in every prospect. One, safety. Their nervous system can relax because yours is steady. And two, status recognition. We instinctively defer to the people who appear most calm while under pressure. So presence equals leadership. So let's talk about how to build unshakable presence. Number one is stillness. Movement signals uncertainty. When you remain physically still, you're not fidgeting. You project psychological weight. People believe the stillest person in the room is the person with most certainty. Number two, deep breathing. Fast, shallow breathing equals low status. Slow, measured breathing, on the other hand, equals control. So before you walk into a listing appointment, take 2 deep breaths, 4 seconds in and 4 seconds out, which subconsciously communicates to your own mind safety and authority. Number 3 is controlling the tempo. The person who controls the tempo controls the frame. So as an example, in a listing appointment, the seller cuts you off and says, what's your commission? Simply pause, remain calm, and respond with a key phrase. Mr. Seller, that's a fair question. And I'll cover exactly how my compensation works after I've shown you my plan to get your home sold for the most money. Once you see that, you can then tell me if my compensation makes sense or not. Sound fair? You've successfully slowed the tempo. They're now operating inside of your rhythm and your frame. Number 4 is eye contact. Eye contact communicates power, but the key is relaxed dominance. The goal is not to stare them down. It's to make the prospect feel seen without feeling judged. Number 5 is vocal tonality. Your voice is your emotional authority. Low frequency sound waves literally resonate more deeply in the body. And in contrast, the high-pitched upswing tonality triggers reactance. And so when you lower your tone and you slow your pace, people unconsciously interpret that as certainty and truth. And number 6 is more of a mindset, which is I have nothing to prove here. The most magnetic presence comes from detachment. You don't need to convince the prospect or chase the prospect. And here's the mantra: I don't need to convince them of anything. I just have to be honest. This mindset shifts everything, and your presence becomes felt before you even say a word. And if the prospect attempts to challenge your frame, remember this: they're not challenging you, they're testing your leadership. People don't trust fake confidence. They test to see if your authority is real. And so here's how you can stay grounded under pressure. As an example, if the seller challenges you on your pricing recommendation, don't get defensive. Redirect with clarity and stay calm. So in a very calm and relaxed way, you might say something like this: Mrs. Seller, that's a completely valid concern. I'd probably feel the exact same way if I was in your shoes. Then use a slight pause and say this: would it be okay if I showed you a little bit more about the pricing strategy so that your home gets maximum exposure without sitting on the market for a long period of time before you decide on the final price? Always giving the seller the perception that they are in control. This reinforces your frame as the calm leader that every seller needs right now. So in any disagreement with the seller, instead of arguing or becoming defensive, fight that urge to be right. Pause and memorize this script. I understand how you could see it that way. I truly do. Would you be open to looking at it from a different perspective before you ultimately make your decision? This continues to support their autonomy and lowers their defenses immediately. So the real magic here is when all of this turns from sales tactic into who you truly are. It's not about putting on an act or using the perfect sales script. It's about becoming the best version of yourself that simply comes out in conversation. It's having the mindset that my beliefs and my self-image is stronger than the prospect's doubt. If your presence is louder than your words and your silence is stronger than the loudmouth's pitch, that's when the true shift will happen. This is when you can walk into any listing appointment and immediately earn the seller's trust and respect, not by deceiving them with BS marketing gimmicks that don't work, or by telling them some unrealistic price, and not by cutting your commission, but winning clients the right way with integrity.